And Graeme Forsyth back here on Amateur Sports TV for another edition of Coffee with Graeme. Been at the lake for a week now and just got back this week, actually, ready to produce some shows again. And we got a guest joining us from the Border Baseball League today. His name is Darren Russell, and Darren is the president of the Border Baseball League, and they decided to unfortunately cancel their season due to a bunch of reasons. We're going to get into that in just a moment, but we bring Darren in now, the president of the Border Baseball League. Darren, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm well, Graeme. I'm well. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course. It's great for you to join us today, and I see that you're not at home right now. You are in a vehicle of some sort.
Absolutely, yes. My day job is getting in the way of of things, but no, it's going well.
Awesome. And if you don't mind me asking, what is your day job?
Yeah, I'm a grain buyer. I work for Richardson Pioneer. I've been a grain buyer now, coming up on 39 years. So
Nice, nice. And how's that been? Just 39 years of doing that. I'm sure that you've had some enjoyment in that for sure.
absolutely, I've loved every minute of it. I've covered the province all the way from the Canada-U.S. border all the way up. Spent a number of years in Dauphin, Minnedosa, Fork River, Killarney, Clearwater. I've been around. You betcha.
Nice. Well, we're going to get into your time with the Border Baseball League. You are the president of the league, and unfortunately, you guys did decide to cancel your season due to a lot of reasons. I'm sure that COVID-19 played a pretty huge role in it. The increase in numbers and cases across Manitoba, but you guys put out a press release on your website, and I'm just going to read a bit of it here, and we're going to break it down if you don't mind that.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So the first part of it read that the executive of the Border Baseball League and the representatives of each member club reached the unanimous decision after much careful consideration. So when did these discussions start happening towards the possible cancellation of the season?
Well, they started after our initial playoff games happened, and everything was rolling along as it had been previously. Infection numbers with COVID were on the rise, and we didn't have a real clear indication that any of it was affecting us. I guess you could say we felt as though we had it well in hand. We were following the protocols as laid out by Baseball Manitoba, and everyone was complying, and everything was going well. So and then we had a bit of an event that happened in one geography of our league that that caused some of our players to be in contact with people who tested positive. So none of our players actually have yet to date tested positive, but there was an association with some of our players with people who did test positive. So, like I said, numerous discussions later, we came to this decision.
And just talking about the concerns from the representatives of each member of the club, you talked about how in one of the regions, one of the associations, how there was some concern of COVID spiking, and you said that none of your players tested positive, but you can never be too careful in times like this. But what were the concerns other than the COVID-19 in those discussions from the representatives?
Well, nothing really. It was purely driven by the concerns we had for the possible infections of some of our players. And I stress the word possible. We don't know. But if you can picture it, Graeme, when the players were exposed to people who tested positive, um, we had two choices, right? Number one was the players would all self isolate for 14 days or get tested, right? Well, the protocol is unless you're exhibiting symptoms, we don't want to overload the system and force a bunch of people on the system to get tested simply for a baseball game, right? It
Right.
would be irresponsible to send an entire ball team or two in to be tested when they were not exhibiting any symptoms. So the only protocol we could follow was that those players had to self-isolate for 14 days. Well, given the fact that we were playing an abbreviated playoff format and things were going to happen pretty quickly, right? So
Right.
to think that we could take 14 days off to self-isolate two teams and hold up everyone else, and it just wasn't going to happen. It wouldn't work. So and given the fact that a lot of our teams, a lot of our players are involved in the agricultural industry, they're farmers, they're very involved. To drag our playoffs on any longer into harvest and the like really wasn't going to work that terribly well either. So we started checking off the boxes, and it really pushed us to one decision. Really, was that we had to suspend our playoffs and end our season early. None of us were happy about it, but everyone understood. Everyone gets it, right? Like they're all
Right.
keenly aware of the situation, and they all accepted it and moved on. I wouldn't say we're happy about it, but disappointment. I think the disappointment is minimal because we knew going in that this might have been a possibility.
And then just talking about how the representatives of each club, a representative of each member club reached that unanimous decision along with the executive and the president, yourself as well. Just talking about another part in the press release that was released, talking about the coaches, the fans, the on-field officials, and all other game day associated volunteers and staff, just talking about how did they have any say in as these discussions rolled along?
Well, as far as them having any say, I wouldn't say we polled a lot of people outside of a fairly small circle, right? The team representatives and our executive made this decision, but we had to be socially responsible in making this. We're responsible to the communities we live in, right? That we aren't, we're not introducing COVID into our communities irresponsibly simply because of a baseball game, right? We didn't need to have people, traveling around the area, possibly introducing COVID into their communities irresponsibly. So, just out of respect for our communities and all the people involved in our game day and with our clubs, we just felt it was the only decision we could make.
And did you guys have a chance to speak to any public health officials in these talks just to get some advice from them, or was it just internally?
No,
Yeah.
no, we didn't, because Jason Miller and the staff over at Baseball Manitoba, very clear protocols. Like prior to the season starting, Baseball Manitoba has been fantastic through all of this. They were very, very clear and concise in the directives to us with regard to playing games. And just so you're aware as well, I vetted the press release through Jason Miller, the executive director of Baseball Manitoba, prior to sending it out. Jason was fully supportive of our decision. Really had no questions. I laid it out very clearly for him. He understood what was going on and why we were doing what we did, and he fully supported it.
Nice. And just talking about how you guys kind of followed suit with all the protocols that Baseball Manitoba is following, because if one league is following a protocol in Manitoba in the same region as you guys are, I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of insight that goes into that. Just talking about how helpful it is to have an association like that in Baseball Manitoba, able to kind of have them to maybe you talked about Jason Miller, how he vetted the press release for you guys. How nice was that to see?
It's really, really good. It's amazing actually to know you have that kind of support behind you, and the amount of work that Baseball Manitoba put into their return to play document, and the real clear and concise directives to all teams and everyone involved in what was going to be required to conduct a season. It's invaluable, really. I mean, they did such a good job of providing us the information, the resources, the support that we needed to conduct our season. Yeah, I can't say enough about them. It's really, yeah, they serve a purpose, and they serve it very well.
That's great to hear. And just talking about the one of the last parts of this press release is that you obviously you believe that this was the right decision made for the league, considering all the possible outcomes, and then weighing the chance that those possible potential outcomes might occur. After considering this risk, you said that we believe we have come to the only decision that could be responsibly made. Just talking about those other potential possible outcomes if everything happened like you guys wanted it to.
Well, the potential outcomes we weighed were the negative outcomes, really. And the impact those could have possibly had on our communities, meaning meaning we continued to play ball, and we ignored the fact that some of our players were exposed. The potential outcome of that within our communities could have been catastrophic, right? So the risk involved in that was, like I say, it became very clear very quickly what our decision was going to be. We followed a process, and ensured that we understood what we were doing, and understood the risks. And there was just far more risk than we were willing to accept to simply play a game, right? There's a really bigger picture here of our community's health and well-being, and our responsibility. As a league, we have a social responsibility back to the communities in which we live, and we accept that, and we feel that that's the reason why this decision was made as it was.
And I just want to get into how you felt that the league and yourself handled this season in particular, because this was a very, very unlikely season that happened because of all the cases in COVID before, and then all the cases that kind of rose as the season went along. But I just want to get your thoughts on how you felt the league as a whole handled the season in terms of the social distancing among the players and among the fans as well.
Well, it's pretty simply said. We followed the protocols as laid out by Baseball Manitoba, and I'll just go back to that. They provided a very clear and concise process that we needed to follow, and teams followed it, and they accepted it, because going into we had a preseason meeting prior to the season starting, and when we went into that meeting, we didn't know what we were going to do. We brought all the teams together. We had lengthy discussion right off the bat as to, are we going to play or not? Is this going to be something we're willing to do? We had the protocols in front of us. We knew what the process was going to be. Everyone looked at it, accepted it, and said, we can deliver this. We can do this. So now, in saying that, is that going to be an encumbrance? Is it still going to be fun? Is it still going to feel like baseball? And we all agreed that we thought it would. We went in, though, with our eyes wide open, though, knowing that if a situation such as this arose, it could be over very quickly. And we were right, because when a situation like this did arise, it did. It just ended it quickly, but for the right reasons. Absolutely for the right reasons.
Right. And just talking about the members, representatives, just everyone involved in the Border Baseball League, how can you can you speak about how you thought that everyone kind of came together and made this season all happen, and how supportive everyone was, and how just that support takes you guys a long way in times like these?
It was really something, actually, because a lot of the people team representatives are active current players, managers, coaches. So there's a very competitive side to them, right? A lot of the time, decisions are made based upon their, the ability to, for wins and losses and success as a team. But I'm really impressed with how all the team representatives looked at this in a very sober manner, took a step back, realized there was a lot bigger picture here. That this season wasn't going to be all about wins and losses and success on the field. This season was a lot bigger picture that had to be considered as we played this season, and they all did that with a great deal of respect for everything, the protocols, for their communities, for everyone involved, for their players, their fans, their on-field, off-field officials. Everyone knew that there was a lot bigger picture that they had to consider as we move forward with this season, and they did that. They did it very well.
Awesome, man. It's always nice to see when you got not just one person, but a whole team of people that are really on the same page. So, Darren, we're going to take a quick break here on the show. We're going to get into a bit about how the 2020 season went on paper, on the schedule, and in the playoffs, the short playoffs that you guys were able to have, the short little games. And we're going to get into that after this break. We're going to hear from our supportive sponsors supporting the show today, and we're going to be back with Darren Russell, president of the Border Baseball League, in just a moment here on Coffee with Graeme.
At Super 8 Winnipeg West, we have your comfort in mind, with free Wi-Fi and free daily Superstart breakfast. We also have guest laundry facilities, a state-of-the-art fitness center, and a jetted hot tub. Sleep well in a spacious guest room equipped with plush new bedding, a 50-inch flat-screen HD TV, microwave, mini refrigerator, and Keurig coffee maker. Or book a suite with a kitchen, ideal for extended stays. Super 8 Winnipeg West, located just inside the perimeter on Portage Avenue.
And Graeme Forsyth back here with Darren Russell, the president of the Border Baseball League. And I was talking to Darren about what went into the cancellation, the possible outcomes that him and all the members involved weighed into what went into the decision, and just talking about how his team and everyone involved handled the decision to make this cancellation for everyone and how it was in their best interests. And now we're going to get into the 2020 season that the Border Baseball League had. You guys had a 10-game regular season, as I saw that every team played at least 10 games. And just talking about the level of competition here, Darren, this season, because in a shorter season, there's a lot of parity that could happen in the league. But just talking about the standings, looking at them, the top 4 teams from last year to this year were basically the same, but they shifted around a bit. But just talking about those middle teams and how competitive they were, and just everyone throughout, because there wasn't, like, Morden was 9-1 this season, but then everyone else was kind of close to each other. Just talking about the level of competition, would you say that this was one of the years where it was maybe at an all-time high?
I would really agree with that, Graeme. Even talking to Morton about their 9-1 season, you would think that they were very dominant, which they were. I mean, Morden is a really quality ball team, but right down till the last game of the regular season for them, there was still a battle between them and Winkler as to who was going to be first overall in our regular season. But if you look at Morton's run differential and look at the closeness of their games, a lot of the games were very competitive this season. We had a lot of really good games. It was interesting to hear the players talk about it as they left that first meeting we had in Pilot Mound where we decided we were going to play and this is how we were going to do it. There was a lot of skepticism in some people's minds as to what was it going to feel like? Is this going to be a season that is it going to feel like a beer ball essentially, right? Is it going to be uncompetitive and people aren't going to the players aren't going to really feel like they're a part of something? And they said nothing could have been further from the truth. They went into the season with quite low expectations, really, and as the season played itself out, they were very impressed and very happy with what it felt like. Down deep, it really felt like they were part of a season, and the games are very competitive. And you're right, a lot of the teams that were in the middle of the pack this year, we had some teams that dropped down, some teams that rose up, but a lot of really good competitive games. And yeah, I use the word competitive, but they're very competitive. It felt like something, and that's good to hear.
Yeah, and just taking a look, I just want to dive into Morton's season and Winkler's as well. Of course, Winkler were the defending champs coming into the league, and they made a statement this year coming out as the second place team in the regular season, going 7-3. So just talking about Winkler first, and then we'll get into Morden because Morden was that first place team. But talking about Winkler being able to go 7-3 after a championship season, trying to defend their title, maybe some hangover there after a championship, but it didn't seem like there was that for Winkler. What do you think made this Winkler Whips team so good and they were able to be so consistent this season?
Yeah, I would agree that there was no hangover for Winkler. They're a very good ball team in a very good league, and to go a 7-3 record, nothing to hang your head about for sure. The thing with Winkler, whenever I watch Winkler play, they're one team that I always say Winkler doesn't beat themselves. Winkler plays sound defense. They get solid pitching. They can all put the bat on the ball. Winkler's just top to bottom, just a very solid ball team, and very, like I said, they won't beat themselves. They play very, very solidly in the field, and that serves them well every year.
And then just talking about Morden, because Morden had a great season last year. They made it to the championship game and lost to Winkler in that final. I'm just going off the stats here, off the website. But Morden able to come back after last season's disappointment of losing in that final. And, actually, I don't know if they made the final, but after the disappointment.
Last year, Winkler defeated Morden in the semifinals, and then Winkler beat Pilot Mound in the league final last year. But Morden was right there as well, absolutely.
But just talking about how Morden was right there, and they were one of the best teams throughout the year last year as they finished. I think it was second place last season to be in this position again to make that run if the season continued. How do you think that speaks volume about what they're doing as an organization and as a team there?
Well, Morton's one of those teams. You look at every position, you look at everything you've got to be a quality baseball team. Morden checks off every box. They can basically play it any way you want to, and quality pitching, great fielding, a great hitting lineup, some bona fide superstars in that lineup in Morden that come every year and they contribute, right? And Morden is a team that they're very well managed, and they come to the ballpark every night ready to play. And not that everyone else doesn't, but I just see Morden as being a team that's very well prepared and ready for the game every night. They come into every game with a plan and the ability to execute it, and they're just a really top to bottom solid organization and ball team.
And then, just talking about the team they had this season, about 4 All-Stars on that first All-Star team. They had a few on that second All-Star team as well. They actually only had one in Steve Mullen. I had a chance to talk to Steve earlier on this year about what he thought the league would look like this year going in with the uncertainty of COVID-19 and just the pandemic rising. But just talking about the teams that you thought going into the playoffs maybe had a shot to upset the teams like Morden, like Winkler, teams like that.
Well, if you look in the East and you talk about Carman and Altona, Carman had a very solid year for them. A real scrappy bunch. I mean, talking about Morden showing up at the ballpark every day ready to play. Well, you hit the nail on the head with Carman as well. They've got a new franchise to our league, and some guys that are just freshly back to baseball, but a really, really great organization and a solid lineup. And Altona as well, they're second year in the league. They're trying to build something there, and I see Altona as having just a very solid season as well. Like you can see progression in Altona with the off field is fantastic, and the on field is coming, right. They're going to be okay. Altona's going to be a contender and a team that we're going to see in the top half of our league for years and years to come, just because of their great minor ball system and the way they conduct themselves on and off the field in Altona.
And you spoke about it with Morton, and you said how well of a team that team is managed, how they manage their players. Just talking about teams like Altona and Carman, and you spoke about it, how not only on the field but off the field they're excellent. Do you think that maybe that's the key to building a contender in this league, is to not only have that great on-field play but that great off-field management as well, and maybe finding new players to step in every year?
Well, finding new players to step in, the real key to all of this is our minor baseball system. We get these players at the end of the pipe, right? They've already progressed through their local minor baseball systems, and we get the end product of that. So the success of a senior baseball team is a clear reflection of your minor baseball system, and then it's up to your managers and your team at a senior level. You need to provide these kids the opportunity to play, put them in an environment that fosters development, and give them an opportunity to get on the field. I mean, you look at the broad spectrum we have in our league of teams, and we go from the top populations. You go to the Winklers and the Mordens and Carman, Altona. They're all fairly large centers in our league. Winkler and Morton being quite large, and then you move to the other end of the spectrum, and basically to the other end of our league this year with Balder, Clearwater, Pilot Mound, Cartwright. I mean, there's more people on one street in Winkler than there is in any one of those towns. So those communities really have, like a town like Clearwater. I think their population is about 85 people, and they're still able to put a reasonably competitive ball team on the field and compete head to head with the Winklers, the Mordens, and the larger centers. And again, it goes back to the real credit is due to the minor ball systems in those communities that gives the kids a chance to play. That those people that are out there mowing diamonds and coaching youth ball, those are the ones that deserve the pat on the back. And for the success that we have as a league, where we've had in the last few years, we've had provincial champions, we've had Western Canadian champions come out of our league, and it all goes back to the minor ball systems that produce these players.
Awesome. And yeah, you guys have definitely had success at the provincial level, as you did just say. And just moving into one final part here of this interview, just talking about the way the playoffs work this year. You guys decided to split it up into two different divisions, the Western bracket and the Eastern bracket. What was the decision that was made going into this year to have that happen as the playoff format?
It was done in that manner because we knew we were going to have a limited time to conduct our season, right? So at the end of the day, the last thing we wanted to do as a league was end anyone's season any earlier than we had to. We were going to have a limited season, and it was going to be conducted over limited days. So we felt a long, drawn-out playoff really wasn't going to serve anyone very well. We wanted to ensure that we provided as much baseball for as long as we could for the players in our league. So we made the regular season as long as we thought we possibly could, and then we had a protracted playoff just so that we could have one, more or less, so that it felt like a full season, right? So that was the rationale behind having the two tournament style playoffs. We were going to have 2 qualifier weekends, then a championship weekend, and then it would have been over. And that was the full rationale behind that. The real reason we went east and west was because of the fact that we were going to play these games over one weekend. So the Eastern playoffs was going to be on one weekend. The Western playoffs were going to be on one weekend. We didn't want to see teams traveling, like, if you picture it, all the way from Carmen to Altona, and then Altona up to Balder, and things like that. That really wasn't going to serve us very well. So we thought we would do it geographically, just to mitigate travel and to make it so that we could do this over a weekend. And then we would produce 2 Eastern teams, 2 Western teams. They were going to cross over on the final weekend and conclude our season with a championship weekend, which sadly we never got to play, but that's all right.
And just talking, you talked about it, how this format was able to minimize the travel. It was able to get the playoffs done as fast as possible. But honestly, looking at this bracket, I like the idea of it, how you got 2 different divisions and then the winners cross over. So I just want to know if we do have a full season next year and border and everything gets back to normal, would you guys be willing to do this playoff format again? Because it seems like a lot of fun, I do gotta say.
You know what, Graeme? Guess what? That's a question I'm going to ask the teams. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I like it too. It's exciting. It's short. And I like the idea of what we did when I said we attempted to have as long a regular season as we could to provide as much baseball for as many for all of our players as we possibly could. And I don't know if that's a bad process any year. So would we consider this again? I'm sure we'll consider it. I'm unsure if it's something that we'll continue with, but I know we'll talk about it for sure.
Right on. And honestly, yeah, like I said, I would love to see that format again, because with playoffs, anything can happen. And if teams might not be ready to go, like some teams, some underdog teams might be prepared, and then it creates some madness for sure. So, Darren, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, thank you
Graeme,
so much.
Just in closing, I just wouldn't mind just adding one more thing. Just, I'd like to thank everyone involved this season. And it wasn't the end we were hoping for, but we're okay with it. It's all right. I think if you'd have went to our initial meeting at the start of the year and told everybody that this is how it was going to end, and are you still okay starting, I think everyone in that room would have played our season even knowing this is how it ended. So I think that just tells you it was a success, and everyone felt like it was worthwhile. So I thank you for your interest in our league and for your constant support of us. And yeah, we really appreciate it. Thanks, Graeme.
Of course, Darren, and we're always happy to have you or anybody from the league on the show. If next season happens, if this COVID-19 thing gets sorted out, we'll be happy to have you guys back on the show, and hopefully we can see a full schedule of Border Baseball League season next season. Until next time, Darren, take care. I'll see you. Hopefully, talk to you in another time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Graeme. I appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. Take care, Darren. And man, I really did stumble my words here today, but it's okay. I've been off for about a week now, but hey, we're back now and we're ready to do our thing here on Amateur Sports TV. Hope you guys enjoyed this edition of Coffee with Graeme on the network. Special thanks to our sponsors for sponsoring today's show. Your support means a lot, and like I always say, without you guys, this show doesn't happen, as your support means so much to us. And thanks to all our viewers for tuning in to today's show. If you're a newer viewer or if you're a viewer that have been following the show for a while, we thank you guys for tuning in to today's edition of Coffee with Graeme here on Amateur Sports TV. And for all of us here at the Amateur Sports TV network, we thank everyone for their continuing support through this time for the Border Baseball League. It's very unfortunate what happened to them this season with the cancellation of their season due to COVID-19, the cases rising. But like Darren said, they thought they did what was best for the league, and it seems like everyone was happy in the end. And until next time, I'm your host of Coffee with Graeme, Graeme Forsyth, signing off. And until next time, I'll see you guys.